We are now on Patreon. If you don't know what Patreon is, it is a platform where you can support your favorite creatives with a monthly pledge that you can change or delete anytime. Our Patreon page will work as a tip jar with one tier that is €2 a month or more if you wish. The money will go towards paying for our podcast hosting fees. In the future, we hope to also create exclusive content for you on Patreon. So, if you enjoy listening to our podcast, consider supporting us on Patreon. And now to today's episode. Hello friends, I'm Mia.
And I'm Sasha.
And this is the Drawing Club podcast. Yay! Welcome to another episode.
Welcome back.
And this is a drawing podcast, as the name suggests. So that means that we're going to be drawing as we talk. And also, please feel free to draw with us. And if you do, we'd love to see what you draw. So please tag us on social media. We always love seeing your art.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things, looking through all the things that you drew while listening to the episodes.
Yeah, definitely. So talking of drawing, Sasha, what are you drawing today?
Well, I was just thinking about how lately I've been only drawing like very simple things on the podcast, like blobs or plants. So this time I tried to kind of think a bit more about like the composition, make some proper illustration. But I mean, anyway, the main point is still plants. I can't not do that. Yeah, but I drew this person holding two plants and then some leaves around them. And there is this text, plant love, under it. So I don't know, it looks like some postcard or something. Let's see what comes out. What about you?
That sounds really cute. I'm drawing this person, and she's wearing a headscarf, and there's also plants, obviously. She's holding this, maybe it's like a tulip, but yeah, some kind of flower, and then there's also tulips in the background. Also this very calm plant lover person.
What are you using?
I'm painting with my watercolors today. What about you?
Well, I'm still in the unpacking process, so I still haven't found all of my art supplies. But actually, I thought I'm gonna draw with the same two pencils again. But then last minute, I found a box of the rest of my color pencils. So yeah,
nice.
I'm drawing with color pencils, but I'm using some other colors, not the same ones as last week. And also, like, I'm still figuring out my workspace and my mic setup. So now, like, my mic is pretty close to my paper. So you might hear me doing the pencil drawing. I hope it doesn't bother you too much.
Yeah, bear with us. This is always, like, a bit of a challenge, figuring this stuff out. Yeah. And especially with your move, of course. You need to find all new routines for it, so...
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Yes. So we should do our thing of the week. I almost forgot our thing of the week.
Yeah. So do you want to start?
Sure. So my thing of the week is this podcast that I really enjoyed listening to. I only started listening to it yesterday though, but I've already found it like so valuable and interesting that I just wanted to share it with you. It's by this Finnish, I guess you could call it like new media. It's called Ruskeat Tytöt, is kind of this group. It's a group of women of color who like create new media and media representation, and the podcast is called, it's in Finnish, and it's called Afro-Suomen Historia, which basically means like the history of Africans in Finland. It's kind of hard to, or like of Black people in Finland. It's kind of hard to maybe translate exactly, because and like the whole podcast, like all these words and concepts are very like hard to define, which was like basically the first episode of the podcast. But it's been super interesting to hear about how things are in Finland, and also about, this is like about the history. So like the second episode, for example, was about how Finnish people have participated in colonialism, which is something we definitely weren't taught in school, and was like very eye-opening. And I highly recommend this podcast to anyone who is Finnish speaking, but I mean, I don't think most of our listeners are, but maybe there's a way for you to find something in a language you do speak that deals with a similar topic. I found this like super valuable to learn about already.
Yeah, I think because since there is like a lot of mention of like a lot of different organizations that are like anti-racist, or like deal with education around racism, and most of those organizations that are talked about are understandably in the US. But I think like a lot of us who are in other countries, we can always find some local like anti-racist groups that also do some valuable work. Like for example, this organization in Finland, and I'm sure like in all of the countries that you, our listeners, there are some groups that also do work specific to your community.
Yes, exactly. What about you, Sasha? What do you want to share with the club this week?
Well, the thing I want to share is kind of political, and I also want to like give you a warning that I'm gonna talk about homophobia and like homophobic propaganda. So also, if you don't want to listen, or like, if you don't want to hear about that kind of stuff, then feel free to just forward like 5 minutes. But also, it's a sad but also heartwarming story. Anyways, maybe like some of you have heard, but in my home country, in Russia, there is currently like is it called a referendum?
I'm not even sure what.
Like when there is, I mean the government is proposing some changes to the constitution, and the public is going to vote on whether those changes should be implemented. So yes, and like on the 1st of July, there's going to be the vote, and there are like a bunch of different changes, and most of them are about, I mean, I guess a lot of you know that the current president in Russia is a horrible, horrible person, and like most of the people in the government and in the parliament are horrible, horrible people, and the whole political situation is very bad. And some of the changes to the constitution are like that they would mean that the president can, after his term is over, he can still be a president for like another 12 years.
Oh my god, yeah.
And also like some other things are going to be easier for like people to stay in government and for the president to control who are the people ruling the country and stuff like that. So yeah, but one of the changes that they're also suggesting are like the definition of a marriage, because even though like same-sex marriages are still not legal in Russia, there are still like some ways around it. For example, like some people get married elsewhere and officially their marriages should be recognized in Russia, but now they want to change it to like in the constitution to make the definition of marriage to be between a man and a woman. So I guess in that way they're trying to like prevent in the future of like same-sex marriages becoming legal, because that would make it unconstitutional or whatever. And there was a video sponsored by the government that has been put out on YouTube that was kind of like an ad for people to vote for these changes. And I mean, yeah, I wouldn't even suggest watching that video. It's not actually on YouTube anymore. But anyways, like I'm gonna describe this video, but also like it's very homophobic. But it's a video where they show an orphanage, and the child is getting prepared to be adopted to a new family, and then his daddy comes and picks him up, and he's like really happy, and the people who work in the orphanage are like filming like this story about how this child is getting adopted, and then he comes outside with his daddy and he asks, "Where's my mommy?" And like basically another daddy comes out of the car, and the child gets really sad, and like the people who are working in the orphanage also get really sad, and it's just like it's really, really, really bad. And then they ask, like the question of the video is whether you would choose a future like this for our country.
Holy shit.
Yes, and that's how they want us to not vote for those changes to the constitution. Anyways, the video was even deleted by YouTube, which is good. And there has been like a lot of backlash on how like homophobic that is. Anyways, there has been a really, really cool movement on Twitter. A lot of people, a lot of artists like you, friends, have made art of that couple with that child, or just of other like same-sex couples with a child, and the hashtag is like in Russian it's "Da vyberu," which means yes, I will choose. So like, because the question of the video was like, would you choose a future like this for our country? And people are like, yes, I would. And there are like all these drawings of this couple with like a happy child and these happy daddies, and it's just like it's so cute, like how people use their art to promote the other people to go and vote against this. And I'm just like, in general, it was like so nice to look at all those drawings, and I don't know, it's just so cute, like that whole movement, that whole hashtag.
That's so beautiful, and like what an amazing way to do activism.
Yeah, exactly. And like how they actually took that same story, that horribly shown story that the whoever made this video did, and they kind of like turned it around. They took those people and they're like, no, that is not how I see this family. This is how I see this family. And like, it's amazing. And I thought like I really wanted to share this here on the podcast, because like we're a drawing podcast, and how like these, like we're just drawing these little things, but also like these drawings can like make a big difference or like say a lot. Yeah, so even though like the whole story is really sad, and I don't know what's gonna like happen after this voting thing, but like the way artists have responded has warmed my heart.
Yes. Yeah, that's a beautiful reaction to a bunch of like a pile of shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Commercial.
Yes. And also, if any of our listeners are Russian citizens, then please go vote against this horrible thing. I mean, I don't know if it's gonna work and how this is gonna turn out, but I think we should do whatever we can. And even if you are in some other countries, you can vote through like embassies and stuff. There is this website where you need to register first, and like if you don't know how to do it, please message me on Instagram. Like I'm gonna help you figure out how to vote if you are abroad, but let's please vote against this. All right. Yes, that was thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And
Yeah, no, that was amazing. I was just like, oh, I wish I could vote, but so I don't know what to say. But yes, please, if you can, vote.
Yes.
Against. Yes.
All right. Well, now on that note, should we move to our topic of today's episode?
Yes, let's do it. Go ahead. What are we
All right.
talking about today?
So today's topic also came from a couple suggestions from you friends. So I'm gonna try to read your Instagram handles, and I apologize if I read them incorrectly. But Jannike Illustration asked us to talk about social media, and Died Wild said that they would want us to talk about how to come up with ideas and not feel overwhelmed by amazing artists on social media. So yeah, thank you very much for these suggestions. This is like a very good topic, and yeah, that's what we would like to talk about it today. And since like one of the angles to this conversation was about feeling overwhelmed by other people on social media, but also some of you want us to talk about social media in general, we thought we could like divide it in these two big parts. So we could talk about like how we use social media to share our art and like what our experiences are about that. But then we could also discuss about like how we use social media as like source of information and inspiration, and then how we actually handle like the amount of information and ideas that you get from social media. And yeah, we could share our experiences and strategies around that.
Yes.
So yeah, but yeah, let's start kind of with like how we use social media nowadays for our art and in general.
Yes. So I can start. My main social media is Instagram, which I think it is for a lot of illustrators. I tried Twitter, and I do have a Twitter account, but I'm like not active there at all. I mostly just follow things there. But I also have a YouTube channel where I every now and then will upload videos, like studio vlogs or something, where I share my art process, or sometimes they're just more like daily vlogs. But yeah, Instagram is like my most, and I kind of consider, it's my main social media for my art. What about you, Sasha? What do you use?
Yeah, for me, I think it's pretty much the same in terms of like Instagram being the main media. It's so visual. Basically, it's like pretty natural to use it for art. I used to use Facebook quite a lot to also like as kind of this information news feed for my brand, but then I kind of fell off that. I had way less reach there, and I don't know, didn't work for me that well, even though I kind of want to still post on Facebook, because I think I have some followers who are not on Instagram but who are on Facebook, like some people who don't have Instagram, so I think that could be useful. I do have a Twitter account. I don't use it at all. I just I never really I do follow some people on Twitter, and like once a month I open Twitter to read what's going on or maybe even less. Twitter is just not my format at all. Yeah. And I have tried a lot of, not a lot of, but like some other things before, like some, I don't even remember the names, but there were some like small social media that came out that were also quite visual that then I kind of forgot about, like especially when Instagram changed the algorithm from like this what's it called, like the
chronological timeline.
From the chronological feed to this algorithm based feed. A lot of other apps kind of popped out, like providing an alternative, and I have tried a couple, but I don't ever remember their names anymore. And what else? I used to be really, really active on Pinterest.
Oh,
Because that's also
cool.
like a very visual platform. And that was kind of like my inspiration board. Like I would just save a lot of images that I find pretty and organize them. I would have like so much fun organizing things into folders and stuff.
Yeah.
And I would still go sometimes to Pinterest when I want to like find some visual, like if I search for something in particular, some kind of visual inspiration, especially for like interior or like things like that are not like illustration and stuff, but more like life stuff.
Yeah, I definitely use Pinterest for that kind of stuff, like personal life stuff a lot.
But yeah, nowadays I don't really like share my own work there. I used to kind of like have this whole strategy of integrating my own work into all of the stuff that I save from other people. But yeah, I haven't been doing that much lately either.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I also realized that I also have a Facebook page for my company, but I think I mostly post like the events I will be selling at. So mostly it's like my the audience of mine that's in Finland, that it's just a way to keep informed that I will be selling at this event here. So but I never really update it otherwise. So yeah. I kind of like that there's that like I have Instagram and that's my main thing, and then that I don't have to like, I don't know, keep track of 5 things simultaneously and kind of try to be active in all of them, because that's just way too much. And yeah, I'm not that organized. No way.
Yeah, I think it could be nice to use those features of like posting the same thing on several social media,
yes.
But I don't know, somehow I never got around to even like I think it's so easy to actually have your Facebook just post the same things you post on Instagram. But for some reason I don't do that.
Yeah,
can you tell we're not the most professional social media experts?
Yeah, but you do what works for you. I think it's also valuable that you don't have to like master all the different social medias to maybe like
Definitely.
Yeah. But Sasha, do you want to like talk about how you started sharing like your work or like your creative work or the things you do creatively on Instagram? How did you get started with it?
Well, I think from like the beginning of Instagram, it's been kind of my like a creative outlet. Even though, like, of course, when I just joined Instagram, I didn't really have like my own business or like any kind of creative job, but I still shared things that I made a lot. Like I used to like, I don't know, crochet things, and just like I always made things with my hands, and I would share them on Instagram. So I think for me from the beginning it's been like a place to share my work and like, I don't know, find like-minded people to follow and like, share these common interests around. But I think at one point when I started learning about like having a creative business, then I kind of realized that social media can be also like an actual promotion strategy, and there are all these like it's like a whole science about how you can share things on social media. And there was time when I tried to implement all of those, or maybe not all of those, but like a lot of this advice and stuff, and tried to be like very professional. And I think nowadays I kind of found like a middle ground, that now I think at least like my Instagram is in one way is like this creative self-expression thing, but also a selling platform. And I really try to balance somewhere in between. Like, that's where I feel comfortable. Like, I don't want my Instagram to be this very, like, business page.
Yeah, just like look like a brand
Yeah.
page.
But also, since I realized that it is, like, I do my work there, I also don't want just suddenly to, like, only post pictures of my coffee. Even though I have like, nothing against people posting coffee, but like, since I know that a lot of people who follow me are there, like, subscribed for a specific reason, like, because they like to see a specific type of stuff, or they want to know what I'm up to, or like something. So then I also kind of, I try to balance between, like, sharing my personal, like, or like parts of my personal life, but also being somewhat professional and, you know.
Yeah,
like,
also represent your brand, but like
yes.
in a less corporate way.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, for me it's like this constant balance. Like, I always kind of, I do look back at, like, I do kind of plan, for the past, I think like the past 3 months don't really count when I talk about my strategy.
Really... No.
I posted nothing, or like, I did post something, but also like almost nothing. But, you know, if you take like normal life Sasha on Instagram, like, I usually try to think of like how I want to space out my content. So I talk about my life, I talk about what I'm up to, I show my face, but also like show my products on like other people if it's jewelry. And you know, I always kind of try to not go too much in either direction. That's maybe like the main thing I kind of concentrate on. But also posting regularly is like one thing that I'm not perfect at, but that's like what I always strive for. Like, on my best times I do post like several times a week, or like even at some time I did post every day. But also it depends on like the time in my life I'm in, like how much other work I have, and also like what my mental health state is. So
Definitely. Yeah. For me, like when I started using Instagram, I think like at first I was just using it as like this personal outlet. Like it was, you know, selfies and I don't know, some other cool things like coffee cups, I guess. But I came to Instagram kind of from Tumblr. So I was kind of using it in a similar way, but just like with my own content, but kind of more of this slice of life. And I didn't have many followers or anything. And I was like, at that point, I was super scared to show anyone anything creative, like any art that I made, for example. So it took me a long time to do that. I think it was only like back in 2016 when I started sharing my art. And even for that, I made a separate art account because I was too afraid to start sharing it with people who kind of knew me. But yeah, I think it kind of gradually, like I did also like on my account, I started sharing more like thought out, kind of these more curated feed of this life stuff. Like I would take like these, like I would share some film photographs and I don't know, like some kind of poetic self-portraits or plans and stuff. But slowly I started kind of incorporating my art in there, and it started kind of growing at that point already. But then I was sharing more and more of my art, and yeah, at some point it just flipped that there was like more art content than life content, and then the art just took over, and now there's not that much life content, at least like on my feed. In my stories I still like to share what I'm like up to in my personal life as well, but I would like to like get the balance a bit more towards where I also share like some life stuff. But yeah, like you were talking about kind of being aware of why people follow you. Now that I've I have a lot of followers, and I think all of them, or pretty much all of them, follow me for my art. So every time I kind of think about like wanting to post something else, it's kind of like, I don't know. There's like a yeah, I kind of have to think about it because I'm not sure if people will appreciate it. So yeah, I definitely think that like I have to be aware of my audience and kind of what they expect. But then again, I also don't want that to kind of like narrow my expression down too much. So I don't know. Yeah, it's just trying to balance all these things, I think.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that, well, yeah, you mentioned that like posting regularly has been like you found that important, and yeah, I definitely noticed that like in the beginning when I started like growing more and more. Back then I was posting pretty much every day. There might have been a couple of days a week when I didn't, and sometimes I would even post like several posts a day. And I think I kept that up for like the first 2 years or something, that I was like very consistent. But I think especially since I started my own business, I think I don't have as much time to draw, so I don't always have like things to share, or I don't know. You know, life is not always like this aesthetically pleasing thing. So I'm definitely not like so great at posting like that consistently. But I mean, at least, yeah, I couldn't do this everyday thing. And I see that some people do, and I don't know, it blows my mind how someone can do that. But are there like some other things that you like found that have, I don't know, like worked, or like that have helped you grow your audience or something like that?
Well, I feel like those things also change all the time, because the things that work on Instagram are like, they change all the time, because I think like the platform and the algorithms evolve all the time, and also like trends and things. Like there's so many things, and I mean, I'm not even like, I don't really have a very big following, like compared to, you know, Instagrammers, or like even compared to you. So also like there are a lot of things I actually don't know, like whether they work or not, because I'm not that big of an Instagrammer. But yeah, I think like being active, like if I comment on other people's posts all the time, then that does bring like some following back to me. That has worked a lot. And yeah, being active in stories, I think like raises the amount of people active in your feed. But also like posting things that are kind of like either socially important or somehow, like whenever I post about my mental health or about something I feel strongly about, it does, like, yeah, if, at least with my audience, it does bring a lot more response. Like people are way more eager to react. Like I feel, than for, I think like, yeah, like my audience seem to like illustration and serious conversations. Yeah, which is amazing. That's what I like. So
yeah, that's amazing. You've like managed to cultivate this community where, you know, you find the same things important and interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, I do like want to kind of have more like conversations on my platform, which of course like it does take a lot of time also, because I take my posts very seriously. I spend a long time, even like on my stories, I spend time editing my photos, thinking of like the order, thinking of what's gonna be there, and also my posts, and writing my posts. And also like I think lately I haven't been very good with it, but for a while I also wrote all my posts in 2 languages, like in English and in Russian, because a big amount of my following on Instagram is Russian speaking, so I wanted to, you know, also be inclusive of them. and it takes, like, sometimes if it's like a serious post, it takes a long time to write the text, but then I also need to translate it, and that takes a while, and then I also need to fit it in in the Instagram, word count.
Yeah.
And like, if I want to be a perfectionist, I actually need to fit both language versions, so it's actually like half the amount of letters that, like, that if you write in one language. Sometimes I add the Russian version in like the first comment or something like that. But yeah, there's a lot going into that, and like, yeah, sometimes I'm like, yeah, maybe this should be my job, but like, of course, I don't want to just be like an influencer or whatever, because that's also like, I mean, that's a whole different career. But I feel like if you want to be very, like, at least with what I have in mind, if I want to be very thorough, it could easily be a whole full-time thing.
Yeah.
So that's also like one
definitely.
thing, you need to find a balance, kind of like, okay, how often do I do, like, how much of this, thought through and serious content do I want to post that Instagram doesn't take all of my time?
Yeah.
But how do I still stay consistent? So yeah, it's also like a balance of then, posting art and fun everyday life stuff, and switching it up with like more serious conversational posts.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any kind of strategies that work for you?
Yeah, I think one of the, well, first of all, like when you mentioned before that you kind of have educated yourself or like research all these different strategies, and then you've tried them out, and kind of maybe some of them have stuck around and some of them you didn't find so useful. I've never been very like structured with my, I don't know, I haven't had like a strategy. But yeah, there's definitely like some things that I found useful. Like I think a big thing that has helped people find my art on Instagram has been like taking part in these challenges. Like Inktober, I've done that for several years, and it's always like, yeah, it's always like a lot of fun. There's so many people participating, and there's a lot of people like following those hashtags, and kind of they're interested to see what everyone's creating. So those, I always feel like participating in things like that. And now there was this mermaid. I mean, I didn't participate in this thing, but pretty much like every month now there's like some challenge. Of course, some of them are smaller than others, but I think like taking part in a challenge like that has like a hashtag and everything is like, can be super useful. And also, I mean, it's fun in other ways, like just because they're usually this, you kind of draw something every day. It's also like a nice challenge because most of the time I don't have time to draw like an illustration every day. So those are like really nice for that. But yeah, they definitely like bring me followers. And also like, I also noticed that I find a lot of new artists that way too.
Yeah. How about like, because yeah, it's nice to like gain your following, but if you like, if you use Instagram for your business, like, have you noticed what like if there are any strategies that bring you sales?
Well, yeah. Yes. So, okay, well, first of all, I want to say that like this whole, I mean, because I recognize it for myself that sometimes I get way too like, that I'm just thinking of these numbers like way too much, because in actuality, because of the algorithms that are changing all the time, it actually doesn't mean that many people even see what I post. But yeah, there are definitely some things that I noticed that, I don't know, people get excited about the things that I make. I think like having these shop updates where you kind of suddenly come up with a bunch of like new things, those get people excited. And then usually I try to also, like, before the shop update, maybe I'll announce that there's gonna be one, and I'll maybe share some in progress like photos of something, like some of the new products in advance. I'm not like, I never have a strategy, so sometimes I do this, and sometimes I'm kind of like, whoops, I have everything for ready for a shop update. I guess I'm gonna just update my shop now. So yeah, but I think like if I show new things like a little bit at a time, I can see that people get excited about them, and they're like, oh my god, I can't wait to get that. I mean, of course, not all of those people necessarily will buy them when they are available, but I think like I think people, I've noticed that when there's new things that I put in my shop and I kind of show all these new things, it's like, yeah, people are more likely to go in my shop and get those new things. And sometimes they don't even get those new things, but they get some of the older things. But I think it's just like, I don't know, gets them excited about my art again or something. And sometimes when I do that, I also have sales, which I of course like communicate those through Instagram as well. But yeah, I think like sharing new products is a big one. And then also, yeah, like sharing the progress behind them. Like a lot of the times I might share photos of when I'm assembling my jewelry or something like that. Yeah. Have you noticed any like strategies that work for people to buy from your shop?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would say, because for me, for example, like social media is not a primary selling channel.
Mm-hmm.
So in general, like I sell more like in like face-to-face event. Okay, maybe. Yeah, I mean some in the events, but mostly like on through my retailers. That's like my main selling channel.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely like just the more I noticed, I even read it somewhere that the customers, like in general, like your customers would need to see the same thing like on average 10 times before they decide to buy it. So I think like showing things over and over again is like a good thing. And with some products I noticed like every time I show them, some sales come in. Like for example, I say like, okay, I make these portraits, and like I talk about these portraits, and some people will order portraits on that same day.
Yeah.
And then I kind of assume that, okay, now my whole audience knows about these portraits. And they might, but still some of them might have seen it and thought like, oh, that would be cool, but then kind of, not act on it right away. So like if after a month I post again like, okay, my portrait commissions are open or whatever, then someone else will message. And it's like, you need to remind your people about things that you have for sale, because people who follow you follow a lot of other people, and also they have a lot of other stuff happening in their life, so they're not like constantly thinking about your products, even if they like them very much. So you might have posted about something and they really liked it, but then a lot of other things have happened since then. So it's good to remind people about your stuff. I felt really bad about it before. I would be like, I don't know, I think I annoy people by just telling them, I have this thing for sale, I have this thing for sale. But actually, you see your Instagram as like something really big, but other people who follow you, they might really like what you post, but also that's like a very small part of their life. So yeah, they don't treat it as seriously as you do. So I think it's fine to like post the same thing again and again. I mean, don't post exactly the same thing, of course. You can like, you can take different photos of your products and then post those. Like post one photo and after a while post a different photo. But I mean, like, you can talk about the same product again and again, and it's, I mean, unless you talk about it 10 times a day every day, that might be too much. But like, if you talk about it every now and then, it's not gonna annoy people, because I mean, first of all, people understand that this is your work and you're there to sell your stuff. And also, like, people like to be reminded about things they like. And if they don't want to buy it, they probably still like looking at it because they followed you, so they like your aesthetic.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. That you just have to keep sharing your stuff, which, it feels kind of scary. But I actually noticed that because I've made like a couple of products that have been like more. I've made them like available for pre-order because they have been like a product that I've had to like put more money up front. So there's been like more of a risk. So with those, I've tried to be more strategic in that I've like actually also included people in kind of the decision-making processes. Like I've asked for ideas like, oh, I want to make a t-shirt or I want to make a tote bag. These are the two things that I've kind of been asking like people's, like my followers' input in. So I've asked about like which subject matters would be interesting, or then when I'm done with the illustration, I ask like which colorways are like would be nice. I've like made polls, and sometimes I've asked for like input through messages, and I think like, and that has been like more of an ongoing thing, like during maybe like a few weeks even. So I kind of share that, oh, I'm working on this thing and I'm trying to decide these things and I need your input. So I think those have worked really well, actually. And I think people want to be, like, I think a lot of people like to be included somehow in the process.
Yeah, and social media is like perfect for those kind of things. Because you also like, you put your products in shops, but like, you can't really do that in like with a retailer, but on social media that's like a perfect place to actually interact with your audience and do things together.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, I was wondering, like, because you were talking about like some pressure to like about like things you post and like posting things that people expect and like pressure about what you think audience expect from you. And I guess there's also like pressure to like position yourself in a certain way in front of the audience. But like I have this fun question. How do you think like real life Mia is different from Instagram Mia?
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, I think, well, something that I think of immediately is I think like in real life, I'm very silly. Like I'm a really silly person, and I don't know if I can say that I'm funny, but I mean, I laugh a lot at my own jokes and everything. Also, like at other people's jokes. But yeah, I think I'm way more like silly and kind of, I don't know, like animated person. And I think like some of it maybe comes through a bit more on this podcast, for example, because I'm talking to you and we're good friends and I'm like a bit more loose than if I'm talking just to a camera, like for example in my stories or something. So definitely that is like a big part of my personality that I don't think comes across very much. And what else? Do you have like a big, I mean, I'm sure there are like other things because there is such a narrow kind of thing that I think we show, at least that I show like on Instagram, because I show what I create, and I do show my personality, but it's in such a kind of this, it's still in this creative person context that a lot of like the other sides of my personality kind of don't really show that much, I don't think. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Well, first of all, yeah, the silly thing. I also like I like doing silly things and saying silly things and like, I don't know, dancing in my home, like doing funny dance or doing funny voices and stuff like that. And I never really do that on Instagram. And I actually like wish I did. Like, I wish I was that person who wasn't scared to do that, because I really appreciate people being silly also on social media. And I'm always like, how do they do that? Because I'm also like a very self-aware person and very like, you know, I think Instagram Sasha is the same person as like if you meet me for the first time. Like, it's kind of like I talk to people I don't really know, so I'm very like reserved and I don't show my like silly funny side because I don't know yet if these people will understand that or like whatever, or like I don't even feel like comfortable enough to
That's
do that.
such a good analogy. That's like perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
That's good. I feel that too.
Yeah, but also it definitely like visually it's very curated. And also sometimes I do feel like maybe it actually doesn't matter if I showed like a part of my apartment that is messy, or a part of my apartment that doesn't have pretty lighting, or like something that is not perfect yet. But I'm always kind of like, I only want to show things that I'm proud of visually. And of course I'm not proud of every aspect of my life visually. So, and I mean, I'm sure, like, I don't think there's anything bad about it. I think it's like totally fine to like curate things and make this, because like, yeah, my Instagram feed is also like it's also a way I express myself creatively. I like to put all those pretty things together, and those things are from my life, so those are not like, you know, some random things. So they are like truly what happens to me, but also only those things that happen to me that visually fit this atmosphere that I'm trying to show others. And I think that's totally fine. But also sometimes I'm like, I could be a bit more vulnerable. I could show some things that are not so perfect, because also I'm a bit worried if it puts pressure on others because they think that my life looks like what my Instagram looks like. But like, yeah, those of you who listen and who follow me on Instagram, my life doesn't look the way my Instagram looks. Some things those things on my Instagram are from my life. So parts of my life do look like this, but also like there are a lot of imperfect things in my life that are not on Instagram because I don't know, those I don't feel like sharing.
Yeah, that's such a good like distinction. And again, I really like I feel that too. I can totally relate to that. Yes.
Yeah. But like, do you feel like shame around not sharing like things that are not perfect enough to share? Or do you think it's like totally fine if you want to curate things and you want to share only pretty things? Like, do you feel it's fine? Or do you think we need to be more honest on Instagram?
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, like, I'm not sure if I can like talk in a broad way, like, you know, that people should, I don't know, like in general, like not only share the pretty sides, but I think at least personally, I mean, I would find that refreshing. I would find that like a positive thing, I think personally, but I understand that people have different reasons like not do that. But for me personally, like I definitely don't want to try and appear perfect. Like that's not the reasoning behind why I maybe don't share as much of my imperfections. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I do, but I think it's mostly in stories because they feel more casual to like share, I don't know, like my insecurities, or if I'm feeling like or if I'm having like a bad mental health day or something like that. But I think for me, at least, I would like to be more open and be more vulnerable. But it's so like, I don't know, it's so funny, like about this being silly. At some point, like earlier this year, I was even thinking if I should make a TikTok and not tell like anyone like that follows me on Instagram, for example, where I could just do like silly jokes. Like just these like totally silly jokes. Because I never, like, I don't do that anywhere online. But I was kind of thinking like, it would be so funny it would be so fun and funny to have like this place where I would be anonymous in a way there. And I don't know, there would be no pressure. Like no one kind of would actually know me, so it wouldn't matter if I was doing all this embarrassing stuff there. But I don't know why I can't do that on my Instagram. I think a big part though is that because it's my job. Yeah. That it kind of feels like some things don't mix with that so well. Or like, I don't know, like if I talk about, oh, I'm so clumsy, or I don't know, like share some things like this, then someone might think, oh, but she makes these products. What if there's, what if I buy them and she's been clumsy and, I don't know, like somehow that it reflects badly on how professional I am or something, or how good I am at my job if I share these things that I like struggle with, or...
Yeah, I get it. But also, like, there are plenty of people who do that, and they're still very professional, and they sell their stuff, and that's just part of their, like, online personality. And like, people follow them and buy from them because they love their personality, and...
Yeah, that's true. Like, I mean, Tara Booth? But she's this illustrator who, like, makes comics about all these, like, kind of things that, like, about her own life, but all these, like, embarrassing situations, and I think it's, like, a way for her to kind of deal with all those things that have happened with her, and, like, she constantly shows, like, these embarrassing things, or how she, like, ways she is imperfect, quote-unquote, and, yeah, like, that's, like, I love it, and so, like, so many people love it, and want to support her work, and everything. So it's, like, yeah, like... It doesn't mean that people are gonna be like, oh, what the hell is going on? I'm not gonna want to support this person if they're not like perfect or something.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's very scary, even though I don't strive for perfection, but kind of knowing where to draw that line, or where to kind of, I don't know. Because I do feel that I don't want to share everything about my life, of course. Like, I want to keep some things private. But then sometimes it's hard to know, like, yeah, where to draw that line. And why? I don't know, this is so confusing.
Okay, we're almost at an hour, but we still haven't moved to our second half of the conversation. I think I have a theory, like, lately with our podcast episodes have been, like, getting longer and longer. I think because, like, we are isolating and we don't see each other. Yeah. So this is when we chat. So we go into our, like, regular chat. That's
so true.
Yeah, we drop it on all of you friends. This is us not having seen each other for way too long and talking for way too long. Yes. But anyways, let's briefly talk about how we use social media, like, to gain inspiration, and how do we not get overwhelmed and, like, unmotivated, because everyone's art is so amazing. We could never, like, like how you sometimes feel like you can't really contribute anything anymore because everybody is just so amazing. Like, do you have that? And, like, how do you deal with that?
Yes, I have it. Like, a lot of the time, I love seeing people's art on Instagram. I follow a lot of artists, and like, most of the time I feel like I feel inspired by like seeing their work. But yeah, sometimes it makes me feel bad about my own work, which is so like it's very natural, but also I like it's very annoying that it happens. Like comparing myself to others is like the like one of one of the most annoying things, because I feel like everyone is doing their thing. Like you can't really compare art in, I don't know, in the same way that you compare, I don't know how to like articulate, but yes, definitely I feel that. And sometimes like, and if I do, I kind of know that I have to get off social media now, that now it's not like doing me any good. But then I kind of, it doesn't really get to me more than like in those moments, because at the same time I also know that not everyone has to draw everything. Not everyone has to create, you know, all the things, or, you know, portray everything in their art. And like for example, one big thing for me personally that I can get like start feeling down about my art is when I see people drawing, for example, like, I don't know, like some ski scenes where there are like several characters and there's a background and this thing, because that's something that I struggle with drawing and I'm a bit scared of drawing. And then I kind of get this, oh, but I just draw these portraits. It's just, there's a person, there might be some plants, but there's like, that's it. That's what I have to offer. And these other people can tell these like stories with just one illustration. But then, and I mean, some of it might be valid for me because I would like to extend my artistic expression. So, I mean, that's fine. But feeling bad about it doesn't really help with that. But what I kind of try to do in those situations that I feel about how my art is somehow, I don't know, like not good enough, I kind of maybe think about or look at some of those artists who I follow who actually have like a very narrow kind of thing that they draw all over and over again. And I enjoy it every time, regardless. Like, I think that's one big thing where I get like insecurity, and it kind of helps to remind myself like, oh, but not everyone has to create everything. Like, art can be enjoyable even if it's like on this very narrow subject matter or whatever. So that's like a specific example that I kind of feel. Do you have like a, or yeah, can you talk about how you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely I also have those feelings that sometimes it's just too much, or like there is so much beautiful stuff, like who even like first of all, I often feel when I look at other people's art, I often feel that I'm never gonna be as good as a lot of these people who are really good. So sometimes I feel like, why do I even try? Because like I'm gonna be better than what I am now, but I'm just never gonna be as good as these amazing people. Which, I mean, yeah, I mean, I know it doesn't matter, and like I don't even strive to be the best of the best. Like, I don't care if I'm as good as like the most famous illustrator. Like, actually, like I don't need to be a champion of all the illustrators. I just want to make something that's pretty and like somebody wants to buy. That's actually enough for me. So I don't even know, like, but sometimes those feelings still come. Maybe because like, yeah, when you see a lot of, like, when somebody's work is so good it overwhelms you. Yeah, sometimes it like makes you feel bad about yourself. But yeah, then I just remind myself that actually that's never been my goal in life, to be like, I don't know, to win awards or whatever. Yeah, but then also, yeah, I try to, like, when I look at other people's art, I try to kind of like to gain maybe some ideas from it rather than insecurities. Like, kind of like well, I did want to actually also say that I like that whenever I see something that people can do that I feel like I can't do, I try to actually concentrate on people who also do something similar to what I do and are like successful at it. Somebody who only draws on, I don't know, white background, or somebody who
Yes,
only
exactly.
uses two colors, or like, you know. And then I'm like, okay, this person does this thing and their art is amazing and they have clients and they have a following and it's fine. It worked out for them. So, you know.
Yes, that was what I was trying to express also.
Yes,
I think
yes.
I was a bit
That is a
messy
really
with
good advice. But yeah, also when I see someone's art and it's like so good, it makes me feel bad about myself. I try to actually think like, why do I think it's good, and like what kind of ideas I could like, what kind of ideas or aspects they have in their art that I could also implement, that I could use in my art. Because if I feel like my art is lacking something, then like I try to use other people's art as ideas of what my art is lacking. Like not copy things that they do, but kind of like, you know, yeah, I'm like trying to think of an example, but it doesn't come to me. But like, you know, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, their colors are so lively or so calm. What makes their colors so calm that mine are like not calm enough, or whatever, like those kind of more like general aspects of like trying to like deconstruct other people's art. Or then I try to just take time and like, okay, this has nothing to do with me, I'm just looking at other people's thing and I want to feel good for them for being so, like, not everything has to be about me also. Which, like, it also annoys me that, like, sometimes our brain doesn't let us enjoy what others have done without relating it back to ourselves.
Yeah,
like,
that's
how
so
about
true.
I just feel good for this person that they're so amazing that they've done this, or like for all these people that they're so amazing. Like, why do I always have to think about their art in context with like me? That's like so. Why our brains are so self-centric? I don't know.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, but also like editing my feed every now and then is like also a big thing for me. I sometimes, like, every now and then I go through people I follow and then I unfollow people who like don't inspire me anymore, or just like I'm not enjoying what, like, not necessarily like are bad or post something bad, but just kind of like their whatever their content is not currently contributing to what I want to get out of my social media feed. And I can refollow them again in the future if I want to see. Or like sometimes if there are people who I don't want to unfollow because like they're generally nice people and I want to follow them, but currently I don't want to look at their content, I just mute them. And then
that's very handy too.
Or like I mute some people's stories but not posts, or then I mute some people's posts but not stories. Like I really curate also my feed so that it only shows me what currently I need to see from my feed.
Yeah, that's really smart.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess those are my tips.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I have anything more to contribute. Like, you were so elegant in how you phrased everything. Yes.
Thank you.
I just agree.
All right. Well, let us know what you think on our social media or in the comments, or in the comments on social media or on YouTube, or DM us or whatever. We really want to hear what you think about this topic. And now let's go to the question of the week, which is also related to our topic today.
Yes, I have it right here. So, Newflanged, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, I'm sorry. Newflanged or Newflanged? Anyway, they sent us a question. How addicted are you to watching videos about art supplies on YouTube? This is such a cute question.
Yes. Yeah, so we've been like concentrating on Instagram but haven't even mentioned YouTube.
Well, I did mention it, but I didn't really go on about it. Yeah, so I mean, YouTube is like maybe even bigger, or no, not bigger, but it's definitely like a big part of my inspiration seeking to like creating art. But maybe, we can make another episode talking about that, I think. But yeah, I mean, I have to admit that I haven't watched like art supply videos in a really long time. I think because I've been trying very consciously to not purchase new art supplies. But there was definitely a period of very intense art supply video watching for me, I think like a couple years ago. Oh my god. I mean, I do love them. I love them. What about you?
Yeah, well, definitely I also wanted to mention that for me YouTube is also like a big inspiration and information resource. I watch a lot of videos on like all kinds of different genres right now because of the move. I'm like deep into the DIY home stuff, interior decoration side of YouTube. I'm like watching that all the time. Anyways, generally I'm very addicted to YouTube, but art supplies videos also like, not those that much. I've never really been into those, I think, and like hauls in general I don't really like. But art YouTube I really like studio vlogs. Those are like, even though I find like some of them are very repetitive, which is like understandable, like people just show their work and they do kind of the same thing over and over again, but I still watch them all the time. And I love when they're like 30-40 minutes long, because then I'll just put it and I'll work together with this person. And I feel like it's nice when you work at home on your own, when you have this other person working in their home or studio on their own, and it's kind of like you're sharing an office.
Yeah, I love those too.
Yeah, so I would say like art supplies videos, not very addicted. Studio vlogs, very addicted.
Yeah, I also prefer like studio vlogs. And yeah, I mean, I think at some point maybe I was more into hauls, but I do like when people test like a certain art supply and then they draw like with that and they kind of comment on how it works, maybe compared to like another type of watercolor, or those I really enjoy. And I mean, they're also like educational, but sometimes it's also just, I don't know, it's just really cool and nice to watch. But yeah, I think I'm also more of a studio vlog kind of person. Also, maybe, I think a big part of it is that I don't really want to buy new stuff unless I feel like, I am lacking, and I haven't felt like I'm lacking in my art supplies for a long time now, so yeah. Same. Yeah, Procreate has killed my addiction to buy art supplies. That is so true. That's exactly it. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for today's episode then. Thank you so much for listening.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
Yes, please share or keep sharing our podcast with your friends and with your followers and, on social media.
Yes, like our videos on YouTube, like our posts.
Yeah. And thanks for all of your participation so far. You're so nice to us and we love you.
Yes, we do. We love you.
All right. Talk to you next week.
Yes, see you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Drawing Club podcast.
You can follow us on Instagram at Drawing Club Podcast or email us at drawingclubpodcast@gmail.com.
You can also find me, Mia, on Instagram at mia.minerva and on YouTube as Mia Minerva. Sasha, where can we find you?
I'm on Instagram at Sasha_Kretova.
This podcast was created by us, Mia Minerva and Sasha Kretova.
Olli Aarni created the theme song and assisted with the recording, and Dmitri Zherbin took care of audio mastering.
Welcome to the club, friends.